tickle our funny bones, and also to give us some pause givers this morning. Let's try and see what they've drawn for us. Let's begin with what is in the Daily Nation today. And this is what has been drawn by Munene today in the Daily Nation. Right. I leave it for you to decipher this. But this is all about the handshake as well. Maybe I should throw into a panelist and they can be able to decipher the cartoon with us as well under the handshake. Let's begin with Senator Aaron Cheruiyot. Good morning.
Good morning, Debarl. First of all, allow me, Debarl, before we begin our show, to send a condolence message to the family of Captain Mario Mabonga. The gentleman who just referred into your story. This is somebody I know very well as a friend, and also someone I've had the opportunity to be flown by. It's really unfortunate what happened. We pray that may God's grace be with his family in this moment of difficulty, and may the truth come out on what actually happened on Sunday night. To the topic, I think there's some truth in it, that is a handshake. While it is a big thing, there are small little bits about it that are trying to rain on someone. I'd wish to believe that this is the deputy president, though the proponents of the handshake have told us that it has nothing to do with 2022. The unfortunate thing that President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga have never taken the initiative to take their rank and file through what the handshake is really about. That is by devolving it further downwards through the rank and files of their party. So when in the absence of information, they say power abhors a vacuum. So so much information will come, and some of it is misinformation. I look forward to a day and time, perhaps now that you're about to celebrate 1 year of the handshake, that we will get to understand what are the deeper details of the handshake, because there are certain things about it that remains a mystery up to date. These are leaders who have supporters, and sometimes both to good and to bad use, the handshake is quoted. Therefore, until such a time as when they reveal properly what the true intention and everything, part of it we've heard about it, but what perhaps some of us are looking out for is full disclosure on what the handshake is all about. So to some extent, Munene is right, in my opinion.
Thank you. Boni Khalwale, good morning.
Good morning to you, and like my colleague has said, Pole to the family and friends of the pilot and all who perished in that helicopter accident. Handshake. I think there are some films when you watch where they normally caution that don't try this at home. If you thought the handshake was for the rest of Kenyans, ask Aisha Juma. She tried it at home. When she saw her boss shake hands with the president, she thought she could shake hands with others from Jubilee. And now she's about to lose her seat. Thank you very much.
That's it. All right, let's hear from Otiende Amollo.
Good morning. Again, my colleagues, good morning, those who perished. And
Just continue.
those who perished in that helicopter crash. But I heard you say that it appears the helicopter may have crashed at about 8:30 p.m. I think that then should be one of the areas to be investigated, because as far as I know, helicopters are not supposed to fly after 6 p.m. And I think that becomes quite critical. But on this cartoon by Munene, I like what Senator Cheruiyot says, and I'll come back to it. But Khalwale didn't say anything about the cartoon. He just saw Aisha Juma in it. And Aisha Juma is the stone or what? I'm still very curious. Having said that, for me, it depicts two interesting things. One,
is why are the hands so large and why is the caricature of the DP so small? Why has he diminished himself to that point? One would have thought that the DP should be somewhere looming large beside the handshake, not under it. And I think that speaks quite some volumes. So secondly, it should be remembered that there are certain pillars of the handshake. I think they had identified 9 areas, to be worked on. And one of those areas is corruption. Are these stones, the offshoots and pillars of the fight against corruption? And so why are they raining on the DP? It should not be rained on in that manner, if that is a pillar.
Thank you.
That is my understanding of this caricature.
Thank you. Jakoyo Midiwo.
Debarl, my condolences to my friend who has lost his life in Turkana. I want to wish the family peace. And Debarl, like my colleagues have said, it requires investigations. But I think we have seen too many task forces and too many investigations that never come to fruition. Somebody, that's a clear criminal act. I mean, who allowed choppers to fly in the dark? What were they trying to do? Were they drunk? And who allowed it? I think some people should have been arrested, man. I think it doesn't require a lot of investigation. I think the information itself is supporting. I want to also say Pole kwa Team Tanga Tanga, the ones who have lost the chopper, the ones to my left. Now Cheruiyot will be one chopper less, flying a chopper stolen by our money. Bought by our money, stolen from us. And to the cartoon, I think I agree with Cheruiyot that it should not be about 2022. But I also want to say, when it comes to the fight against corruption, number one target is the small man in the cartoon called William Samoei Ruto. He's the one whose fingerprints and footprints are all in corruption cases. So the handshake has created an opportunity. As a supporter of the handshake, I want to say that Kenyans can't have it anymore. The confidence index is zero. We want to see action, even if it means arresting such people, because I think we have to do something. I think it is a very bad image on Africa. It's very bad image on Kenya that we are being led by the most corrupt in the world. I don't think it is something that we should take as a people. I think when you see the French revolting and Kenyans celebrating thieves, I think it begs of the question as to whether all human beings were born equal.
All right, let's hear from Kimani Wamatangi. Good morning.
Thank you. Morning, Debarl. Let me take the opportunity also to say good morning to our viewers, and also pass my condolences to those that lost their lives in that plane crash. I thought Jakoyo was going to finish that question he was going to ask, because indeed I was searching my memory. Did we ever get a report on the Saitoti crash? I don't think in my memory it is. Did we get a report on the Lake Nakuru one also? I think, and I think it would help. It would help actually.
Even the Kenya Airways we were discussing here last year, the Douala actually crashed. We've never gotten a report yet.
Yeah, sure. And I think, if sometimes Debarl, if you look at some of the infomercial channels, for example, like on Discovery and others, you find that they run real episodes of crashes that have happened, even to international airlines, and some of them are lessons to learn, I believe, even for management, for security, for us, the general public. And I think somehow, one way or the other, we should be able to ask for it, because probes were undertaken, committees. I remember, like the Saitoti one, there was a major hearing that was taking place, I think, in the High Court. It was in the High Court buildings, and then the Nakuru one. I think it is important for that information to get the public domain, then that people get to understand and know what not to do and what to do. Now on that cartoon, Debarl, I was wondering, where are these stones raining from? Is it from the power of the handshake or what? Because I see there are stones that seem to be falling, but you can't tell from where they're falling, or are they falling from the
from the handshake?
It's curious, man. It's very curious, because I think Munene was also being funny in this one. However, we are very anxious as a country, the entire country, to see out of all the hope and promises that have been made out of the handshake deal, and knowing that as a country, the things that were said around it are things that this country needs. For example, like integration between communities, and people getting to lay aside whatever differences they've had and looking at our national agenda as one with clear eyes and no bias. Those are some of the promises that were made out of this handshake. And the sooner this becomes the reality, the sooner that we get to realize these results, then the better and the more welcome the handshake is going to be. Unfortunately, there has been a lot of politicking around the handshake, and sometimes I think that's why we politicians have to take much of the flack from the public as well as accolades, because if you look at anyone, from any end of the political divide, there's been a lot of politicking around it. But what I would say about it is really people are waiting to see, is this for real? Was it intended to be what it was said to be? Because then, as I've said here earlier, if it wasn't, then it will be a big anticlimax. It will water down every other effort in the future that would be promised to Kenyans, that if we did this, then we can win the battle against separation. But if it succeeds, then this country is going to be a good country. We'll be living as one and happy.
And of course, in light of what we're having as the cartoon, come, I think, the 9th of this month, it's going to be 1 year. So we can try and see the good, the bad, and the ugly of the handshake as well. Just briefly, is it actually living to the desired dream that we had from this particular handshake? And we know the Building Bridges initiative is still ongoing. Also, people, or that particular team is actually going, throughout the country to take, some of the views of Kenyans as well. But let's hear from Aaron Cheruiyot. You think 1 year down the line, it is bearing fruit?
The problem, Debarl, and this is what I said earlier on during my contribution, the biggest challenge that I have with the handshake is the fact that it hasn't been sufficiently devolved in terms of information, what it aims to achieve in the long run. Some of us work better when we know what the aim or the final goal or target is in a particular initiative. It serves you better. For example, one of the things we are told is it needs to build a cohesive society, and politics of hate and intolerance, that this is an antidote to it. One man takes it all. We've had all these kind of arguments from proponents of the handshake. But to me, I think the biggest problem or the biggest challenge that led us to where we currently are as a country is lack of political tolerance, where people just go about their politicking without regard to any principle. People just want to score or achieve political goals by taking jibes at each other, things that necessarily do not hold any particular water. When you're told that winner takes it all is a bad scenario, unfortunately, it's not only at the presidency. Even as low as to the MCA level, the winner takes it all. So when you're being told that this culture of the eventual winner after a democratic process going away with all the spoils is not as good, so what is the proposal from the handshake? Is it that for every political contest, number 1, 2, and 3 is going to be considered for a particular position? These things just don't crystallize so clear to many of us. And even this continuous theory that we keep on hearing, that it is because of the handshake that the government is now fighting corruption effectively. The question then that some of us would ask, then is it that the people who have come in were the hindrance to the fight against corruption, such that now that they have joined, the war has gained, steam? Because I don't seem to get it. If Debarl, the only way I can get to achieve my objective, say for example one of my key milestones in the office that I serve, I am not able to achieve until I convince you to join me, then it means you are the impediment to me achieving that particular goal. So if Jakoyo's argument was to be followed to a logical conclusion, then the people who are stifling the war on corruption are those who've been invited into government and to work together with the government of the day.
All right, Otiende Amollo, 1 year down the line. The handshake?
Senator Cheruiyot's argument is a very curious one. How can you suggest that a person outside of government would stifle the war on corruption until they're invited into government? Unless it is an admission that that entirety of government is illegitimate and cannot work. And that cannot be. I think the obvious thing must be that the handshake and the invitation for cooperation with Raila Odinga has given the proper political environment to fight corruption. And that is one of the achievements of the handshake so far. Whatever else it may have achieved or failed to achieve, it has brought a new impetus on the fight against corruption. And it has raised it to a certain level that does not invite, those defenses of our person, our man, except from certain quarters, and we can get back to that. And for where it has done so, I believe it is not on account of targeting anyone. It is only on account of the fact that an inordinate number of people from a certain ethnicity were put in prime positions in strategic government institutions, which inevitably, therefore, if you investigate, you must land there. Jakoyo comes from a place called Gem, and some time back in history, not so now, they used to say that if you threw any stone in Gem, it was likely to hit an engineer or a lawyer or a doctor or a professor, as opposed to other areas. Now, that was in history. Right now, that's what happens in Rarieda. But having said that, therefore, it inevitably means that if you come from a situation, or if you put yourself in a situation where there's an inordinate number of people in high government positions, anytime you round out people for investigations, you're likely to end up there. That's number one. Number two, I think that the handshake has brought the right political calmness, some measure of political calmness in this country. And everyone knows, and those of us who are in NASA know more than anyone else, that the political heat in this country had reached crescendo, and something was going to give. What the handshake has done is that it has cooled off the temperatures. It has allowed people to retreat and redesign and talk. And I think that's a good thing. But more importantly, I think the handshake holds the promise to remedy some of the things we were unable to remedy with the 2010 Constitution.
Yes.
Now, those who fear that kind of remedy, like Senator Cheruiyot, are already anticipating what is it that will be proposed. I don't think we are there yet. Right now where we are people giving proposals to the Building Bridges initiative team. Now we can talk about that. We can give our own versions, and you know, I have my own versions of it. But what's important is not, you cannot attack the handshake because of proposals that you think will be given to BBI and that they might make. That, I think, would be the wrong promise. The right promise is to make those your own proposals now. Having said that, I think the other thing to say about it, though, is that the BBI initiative team must work faster than they are working. 1 year down the line, if they go at the pace they're going, the changes and the proposals they make might run out of time. Yes.
Right, thank you. Jakoyo Midiwo.
Yes, Debarl, Otiende has actually spoken to my point, but I want to thank him for recognizing that Gem is an ace when it comes to education. That's really nice, especially that you say it on the largest media network. But Rarieda will catch up, don't worry. Maybe things are changing now that I'm not the MP, but I don't think it can be that soon. But Debarl, the argument of Senator Cheruiyot is interesting, because I think the opposition movement led by Raila Odinga has always spoken to corruption. In fact, it is the only constant feature in their manifestos in this struggle. So that I think Cheruiyot and his folks should know that Raila belongs to the table because it is his manifesto being used. The government, Jubilee government, has basically changed tune. They don't talk, you must borrow to steal and develop. They're now saying, let's borrow diligently, let us fight corruption. And I think it's working for all of us. Cheruiyot, I want to, as Otiende says, I want to tell Kenyans and your side particularly, that when Jubilee spoke about a two-tribe government, it means that when you are going to arrest or investigate thieves, so to speak, you will only deal with either Kikuyu or Akalajin. But because you are smarter, you took the most lucrative organs of the state or parastatals, you will end up with the raw end of the stick. However, I want to agree with you that it should not be targeting individuals. I agree with you. I don't like the secrecy. I agree with you that according to the tenets of our constitution, we cannot run our country secretly. There is something, such a thing as public participation. If one of the intentions is to end up even changing our constitution, the 20% that Kibaki and Raila told us was bad, you must involve us. You must involve the people, and you must involve leaders, including and particularly members of parliament. We want them to talk about this issue so that we don't make another mistake. What I seem to be thinking is reckless talk, and Wamatangi, you may need to advise, take this home, that there is no day you will build a bridge from Kiambu to Kisumu without going through Rift Valley. If we want all of us to live in this country and live peacefully, let us involve all of us. It doesn't have to be the people that are caught up in this corruption merely, but at least let us not come out even imaginarily that some people may be left out for political gains. That is something I would not want to be part of. But I want to appreciate that the handshake has given us a perfect opportunity to deal with these issues, and I hope it is dealt. We continue doing that.
Right. Let's complete on the handshake briefly. Boni Khalwale, has it borne any fruit so far? Do you hail it a success?
Let me just ask my two brothers, one from Rarieda, another one from Gem. When they come here in the morning and they want to gloat about stones being thrown at engineers and whatever. Supposing you threw the stone in Gem and it fell on Jakoyo Midiwo.
What stones are being thrown to engineers?
Who would it have hit? Now, let's come to the issue of the handshake.
Jakoyo is in a better position to answer that.
It will have hit Jakoyo Midiwo. What question is that?
No. I got the floor is mine.
it's the second time.
The floor is mine.
The floor is Boni's. You'll get your rejoinder. Right, let's hear from
You must
you.
forgive me.
The handshake, we must remember just before Raila shook hands with Uhuru on 9th of March, this had been preceded by calls from all of us in the opposition for the need for us to have national dialogue. And while that process of asking for national dialogue was going on, then the handshake came. Therefore, somebody was attempting to replace national dialogue with that handshake, hoping that it would achieve what national dialogue would have given the country. Far from it. We have had the history of national dialogue in this country. We know that when we had it in 1963 in Lancaster, it gave us the independence that we had. And when we had the national dialogue around about 1997, it gave us IPPG. And when we had national dialogue after the post-election violence,
Yes.
it gave us the Grand Coalition government. So even if you wait until 9th of March 2020, next year, the handshake will deliver nothing. If you think the people in the Uhuru corner and the people in Raila corner have the same understanding of what national dialogue is, just follow James Orengo and Otiende Amollo in Siaya, in funerals. What they say about national dialogue is not what Otiende will tell you today on this panel. Like this weekend, they have been reported in Siaya on page 7 of the People Daily, where Orengo makes it very clear, and may I read?
People Daily?
Yes, the People
Yeah,
Daily.
let me retrieve it. Page 7?
Page 7.
Yes, please continue.
It says, Raila's close allies, led by Siaya Senator James Orengo, said the handshake has given the former Prime Minister the perfect opportunity to succeed Uhuru when the latter's term ends. So as far as they are concerned, national dialogue means push the country only in that direction that will make it easy for Raila to succeed Uhuru. And the way I understand the Uhuru corner, and I'm glad Wamatangi is here, and Cheruiyot, they'll tell us they come from the Uhuru corner. The way I understand, in their corner, they hope that through the handshake, President Uhuru will have an opportunity to implement the 4 agenda items that we all know about. So these guys should just tell people the truth. The handshake is meaningless. You cannot bring the country together because 2 people, 2 communities, 2 political parties have shaken hands and agreed. It has failed, and we are going nowhere.
We're going nowhere. The Building Bridges initiative is still ongoing, so at least we expect a report from them before we
That is a talk
actually... sorry?
That's a talk
Yeah,
show.
that is what?
A talk show.
It's a talk show.
Yeah.
Where do they talk?
What is the legislative backing? Even those views that they are collecting.
But what are you,
Where will they take
what are
them?
you as senators and legislators doing
No,
to
but
make sure that
we
this
are
is really
doing what is
anchored in the law?
expected of us.
There's a legitimate question I should ask Senator Cheruiyot.
Yeah.
When
It is
It is Wamatangi's. No, Wamatangi, for all fairness, please. Wamatangi's time.
Let's be fair.
Okay, Wamatangi, please go on.
And then we can get into the other debate. You know, because first I wanted to understand from Senator Khalwale, because he said me and Cheruiyot are from Uhuru's corner.
Yes.
So which corner are you from? As we organize ourselves here, then we know which positions to take. One. However, Debarl, the other day, as a chairman of roads in Parliament, I was going around looking at some projects in Nairobi, and then I went to somewhere on Gong Road, and somebody was telling me as we were looking at that road that goes through Kibera to the bypass, that were it not for the handshake, that this road would not have been built to the road. And probably if there was a handshake in the year 2007, maybe the railway would also not have suffered the fate that it did. But what I'm saying in a nutshell is this: that for whatever gains that are there, and my view, I think, is precisely what I've held on, is if other than the other objectives that have been laid out, if that handshake would end up, for example, in any political formation that says that this one becomes a partner of this one, and this one becomes a running mate of this one, and these ones, the other one have worked well with these ones so that they can be born out to work post-handshake, then it will be the biggest failure that we'll ever have seen. But also we have to be frank, Debarl. Before 2008, for example, the animosity between, for example, the communities in the Rift Valley, like my community, the Q community, and the local community there, was tense. It was pretty hostile, and that's why you find we had the clashes that erupted in that particular time. Before and after that, the disappreciation, the hatred, you can call it that, between some of members, or largely my community, and, for example, like the Luo community, was so deep. And if some of those issues can be addressed through the handshake, where then that indeed we can be able to see Otiende Amollo coming to Kiambu, and nobody looking at him as a Luo, and saying this is a Kenyan who can add value to us and accept him and work with us. If I can go to Khalwale's backyard and do my business and say the things that I want to say and be seen as a Kenyan, and nothing unbecoming happens to me, out of that handshake, then we would say we've gained at that level. But for all its value, for its worth, I would only advise that anyone with any political ambition had better put it completely outside of the handshake, if this handshake is going to have any example or impact in this country. I believe it is a good idea. It is a good thing. We've been longing for it. We've been wanting for that moment when we can unite as a country, when we can put aside the seed that was planted amidst us Kenyans by our colonizers. We've been waiting for that moment when we can say we are truly Kenyan. But then let us be very careful that we don't lose that moment by politicizing that opportunity then that has been brought forward through that handshake. If we can make it real and do what it is intended to be, I think it will be one of the great successes of this country in terms of integration.
Fantastic.